Hello everyone. We are going to make a quick little typography thing based on a song that you like. So you're going to find an artist that you enjoy and you're going to find a song that you like. This is a song that you probably heard. It's on some sort of commercial. I don't know a whole lot about this band, Kid Karate, and the song is called Louder. It's the one that, plays while people are running, I guess, towards some, drink somewhere. Anyways, the idea here isn't so much to mimic what I've done, because what I've done is just basically made a couple shapes. I made a rectangle here, I made a little triangle that kind of extends past, and so you can do any number of things. You can do a triangle, you can do a circle, you can do a square. I'll do something different for this next little thing here, but the first thing we're going to do is just make a new a new canvas here. I'm going to start off with 8.5 by 11 and probably just sort of shrink this down a little bit just to make it a little bit more narrow. So I'll just hit my crop tool, and I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit just to make it a little more narrow, just maybe 7 inches or so. So it'll be like, 7 by 11 instead. Before we get started, I want to go over here to Adobe Color, so adobe.color.com, and or color.adobe.com, and let's click on where it says Create, right? So if you see Explore, we can explore all we want. That's fine if you want to try that out. But for this, I just want to take a little look at the Create tool. So the first thing we have is several different things here. Color harmony rule and stuff like that. Just basically, essentially, it's trying to help you balance the colors, right? So you can do a number of things. Analogous basically just means that they're all going to move in similar ways to create a sort of a contrasting sort of like balance of color. There's one that has this one little circle of colors that has this little tick mark inside of it. If you click on that, you can kind of rotate them all around. You can make them a little bit more saturated, a little more desaturated and stuff, depending on what you're looking for. I chose to use the triad group because triad essentially is just trying to help you find complementary colors, right? Complementary basically just gives you two sort of spheres. So if, for instance, you have like blues and oranges, or you have greens and pinks and reds and stuff like that, right? Depending on where you put this. So essentially, it's the opposite on the color wheel. Triad gives you a couple different selections, right? So it'll give you like a couple bright colors, and it'll give you like a couple dark colors. There are a couple of colors here, like this one and this one on the sides, that allow you to sort of, if you click over here, I think it starts off with RGB, but if you click over here to the HSV, which is hue, saturation, and value, or in this case, we would call this brightness in other ways. It allows you to adjust this, the saturation of one on the edges here. But if you desaturate, you can desaturate these, I think. But there's a few, like for instance, this one right here with the little tick mark inside of it, that you can sort of adjust those. So I'm just gonna kind of spin the wheel here and just sort of like land on a few things. I want this to be a bit brighter, so I'll just I'll make everything a bit brighter, a little more saturated, maybe a little more washed out. Okay, and I don't think I like the browns, so I'll just okay. Anyways, we'll just stick with this and make this a bit brighter. Okay, so with this done, essentially what we're looking for is a couple dominant colors here. And so in this case, we got this pink and this blue, which I think I'll use, and then maybe the greens I'll use as like text and stuff. But with the darker colors, we'll use those as shadows later on. So you can use this just kind of like copy and paste these colors here. So I'm just gonna real quick copy and paste, say this color right here. I'll copy this. I'll go over here to my Photoshop document, and I'll just sort of make a little rectangle, and I'll try to sort of squeeze it. I'm going to have a little bit more room on the top so I can put the name of the band and stuff, and I'll just get my fill color, and I'll change it. I'll just paste that in, and I'll just give a little fill color, and I'll just fill that in, right? So with that done, I can deselect this, deselect entirely, and I'll just make sure this is sort of centered here. Cancel. Wait, oops. I did an oopsie. Back it up here. Make a new layer, and then fill. All right. Anyways, so with that deselected here, what I can do now is I can move this independently and sort of get that centered in and try to get this a little even along the edges here. As far as the next little shape here, I might add a circle. I want this to extend past the edge. So you've got a couple different ways of creating a circle. You can find your little circle tool, your ellipse tool. You can draw like an ellipse like this. And I want to make it kind of extend off the edges in some form or fashion. I'll have it like this maybe. And what we'll do is we'll change the color to one of the colors that we used before. So I'll just click on this little color picker, and I'll just get one of these guys here. I'll copy this, and I will paste it right here. Paste. Just get rid of that and press OK. And now we have this shape here. And you can do a number of things to it. You can kind of move it around. You can place it wherever you'd like. Here, I think I might place it like this. Shrink it down some. like so. And boom, you've got your second shape. Now, the other way of doing this, if for instance you want to say, for instance, a polygonal shape, you could always find down here under this, you could find this polygon tool. You could create a couple different custom shapes. Easiest way for me though is just to get my path tool here, my pen tool, and just create a series of lines that you can connect together and just make a new layer. And you can just right click on this fill path and fill path. And you can go to color, and I'll give you this little color picker here, and you can just paste this, paste, and then press OK, press OK, and then just delete the path. But the thing here, once you've done this is basically just creates a path full of pixels. And so once you've done this with it extended outwards, you have these little flat edges. So you definitely don't want these flat edges to be showing. So if you want to change the position of this, you always want to make sure you just resize it to make it bigger than the way it was. That way, you know, you could maintain like the sort of integrity of the edge there. And every time you move this, I think it'll maintain the original sort of like borders of it. So I'll just move this around for now, and I'll just leave this this guy here. And then what we'll do is we will get our lyrics in. So we'll start off with basically you want to divide this into like just choose like a iconic phrase. Obviously, the iconic phrase for this one is, you know, louder, 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 because that's what they say over and over again, in case you have not heard the song. But we'll start off with just our text tool, and I'll just grab, in this case, this listen up getting, and then I'll make sure this is set to, say, for instance, you can make this any neutral color. I'm going to make this one white, just to have this sort of popping out here, just to, you know, make sure it shows up. And I'll just make sure this is a bit bigger. Undo that. The name of the game is filling this up. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll put our text in for our next little line, and I'll just say louder. And I'll make this a good deal bigger. And again, whatever lyric you want. Now in this case, we want to maybe do this word by word so we can adjust their shapes and adjust their sizes and adjust maybe some skew. And for this, so let's make this this sort of lime green color here. I'll copy this, and I might not settle on this. I might just keep this. I might change this later. But let's do this number here. Paste this in. Okay. I'm not really sold on it. I might do a color, like, you know, overlay later, but we'll just leave this for now. And essentially what you want to do at this point is just, you know, do whatever effects you want. So in this case, I'm going to make this little effect. I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to skew it, and I'll just sort of skew it like that, and maybe it'll like look like it's sort of laying on its side. And the way I did this was basically just reproducing this a couple times. So Alt, drag, and make it a bit bigger. And then Alt drag it again. Oops. Confirm the changes. Alt drag it again. Make it even bigger. And if it goes over the edge, it's okay, because good continuation will allow us to kind of like understand that this is just a repeating word. So it's not going to, it shouldn't interfere with people's ability to read it. And I'll just drag this down a little bit lower. And what we'll do is we'll just hold on Shift, and we'll right click on these guys, or we'll just hold down Shift, and we'll click all these guys and hit the little group button to make them all in a group. And we'll right click on the group, and we'll duplicate the group. And we'll right click on this guy and do blending options and make sure we're set to color overlay. And the color overlay, we're going to use this sort of shadowy color here. So we'll right click this, copy this, and we'll come back to our Photoshop and just paste this in, Control V. I'll press OK, and I'll just drag this down below group 1 and make sure I have group 1 copy selected. I'll just right click, I'll just click on this, or Control D in the keyboard, and I'll just drag this down a little bit and make this little effect. So at some point you do want to make this effect for whatever, just this little thing. And I think I'm actually enjoying this green a little bit now, so I think this is actually okay. All right, so at that point you can kind of keep these changes sort of hanging out here for now. And the last thing we want to do is we want to bring in a photo of whoever it is that that's singing this. In this case, Kid Karate is actually a trio, but the two guys who kind of run it are these two gentlemen from Ireland. And I'll just sort of show you what I did here. What I did was I cut these guys out, and essentially all I did was I cut them out, and then once I put them into the document here, I can actually just take this right here and sort of drag this in. What I did with these guys afterwards was simply resize them slightly. Just make sure this is right size. And I just added a gradient map. So I'm just going to right click on this and just make this into a smart object. Right click, convert to smart object. with the mask on it and everything, and I'll just click on this right here. I'll choose gradient map, and I'll make sure it's clipped. And I'm going to choose this pink color that's on the foreground to do this. So I'll just click on this, double click on that, and I'll just find my pink color here, this little salmon color. Right click on it, copy it, come over here, paste it, and I'll do the same thing to the other stop, we'll call, right? Paste and press OK. And if at any point you put another stop in an accident, you just click on that, you just drag it down and it goes away. And for the one over here, I want to say we make this lighter here. Yeah, okay, so we make this a good deal lighter. And you can make the brightness as well, right, to give it a little contrast. And you could always take the fill and pull the fill down slightly just to give it a little more contrast, a little more noticeable. So I'll keep that there. And with that done, we can just kind of click on this and sort of reposition this anywhere we want. And if you want it to, for instance, let that obscure the text, that's fine. If you wanted to, say, for instance, have some of the text more visible through it, you can just hold down the control button and click on the T icon next to listen up. And then from here, you can go over here to your photo and just add another layer mask. In this case, I'll just alt-click it. Alt-click the layer mask, so that way it sort of pulls through. But in this case, maybe I want to have like this guy's face a little more visible, so I'll hit my layer mask and just click back and, brush over a little bit of black, or in this case white, just to reveal that so he stands out. So he's like overlapping with the other guys behind it. Fun little effect. And then the last little touch, we're just going to put the name of the song at the top here. And we'll make sure this is, so Kid Karate. Actually, we'll put the song name first. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Louder. And then Kid Karate. And this, for whatever reason, has been clipped. So I'll just drag this up, unclip it. And what we'll do is we'll change this to black and put this in the margins. And my lighting is very high for some reason. Put that on auto. And I might change this to a lighter font, maybe for instance, Caviar Dreams or Century Gothic. If you don't have Caviar Dreams on your computer, that's fine too. And I'll just make these even by extending out my kerning here. Or in this case, I think it's tracking. Kerning something different. Okay, so this is bold. I don't want this bold. I want this lighter. I'll make this regular. Okay, cool. I might make it a bit smaller too. All right, neat. Cool, and so there we go. So this is just experiments with color and experiments with type, just to look at some of the different type tools we've got. We can do a lot of really cool stuff with this. Once we get done with this, make a new layer, for instance, and Control, Alt, Shift, and E. And then once we have that, we can maybe, for instance, go to Filter and go to our Camera Raw filter. We can kind of tweak some of the different effects. Like, for instance, we can add a vignette to it if we wanted to. Go over here to our little function and just add a little vignette to it if we felt like it. We could go over here to our basics and sort of like maybe add a little dehaze to it and add some more contrast. We could go over here to our filter gallery maybe. The filter gallery. We can go over to maybe add some noise and put like maybe just some dust and scratches on it. That'd be kind of cool. Let's see what we got here. Whoop, we don't want necessarily that. Maybe not that. Maybe just add noise. Filter, noise, add noise, and just give a little teeth, a little texture to it. And if you always, as always, you can always add a new kind of texture on top and just put shift down the fill or change the blending options or whatever. So yeah, so there we go. That's a fun little sort of a text design for whatever purpose. You can do any number of things with this, and yeah, very cool. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you in class. Turn this into a JPEG.